Good morning. It's 4:45 a.m. and I'm just leaving our place in Old Town Quebec City for what will be a long day for me. This is my annual tradition of trying to run, walk, however on foot, cover 100 minus my age in miles, and being 53, that means it is 47 miles I'm going to cover today, and I'm just getting started. And it's sunrise in Quebec City, June 27th, near the solstice, so longest days of the year, where there's close to 17 hours of daylight, and I'm going to be utilizing most of that. But I'm going to switch views here to show some of the sites that are just outside our door where we're staying here in Quebec City, which is a beautiful city, and I've mapped out a route to take in a lot of that beauty, not just for the historic stuff here, but even the park systems and the trail networks. So starting with this famous area right here, and this mural showing the history of the city. And with such an early start, it allows me to be pretty much the only person strolling through these really lovely plazas and enjoying the scenery before it becomes packed with tourists throughout the day. So this will be some of the highlights that I'll be filming along the way, just to give a taste of the city and to document my adventures today. This is headed towards a very famous street here called Petite Champlain, Little Champlain Street, one of the most historic streets. We are near the water down here, but very famous and often photographed is the chateau that's on the hill overlooking, pretty much visible from all over the city. Again, very nice to enjoy all of this when it's virtually empty. And I love this time of the day and also night, we call blue light, when the floodlights and lights of the town blend in very nicely with the darker blue of the sky, but not totally dark. I might be needing some of these umbrellas today because the forecast is calling for rain, but we'll see what we get. I do like how the wetness provides a little bit of reflective light over the cobblestones here. This is one of my favorite streets here, the Rue de Cul-de-sac. And there's that famous hotel view up there. Now I'm gonna leave some of the fortifications and walls and buildings of the old city, old port, and head closer to the river and past some, you can see some of the cannon fortifications here for the defense of the city. And making my way along the port. And this is just the start of my run. I'll be highlighting a few different things as I go around the city. Not just these famous historic parks, but utilizing those great network of trails and public park spaces that they have all throughout the city. All right, good luck to me. Here I go. I am on there they call Old Port, and I'm assuming that means there's a new port, and I'm not sure where that is, but I'm assuming it's all this stuff here that's part of the more industrial side of the city. But it is divided by the Charles River that flows into the St. Lawrence River, which is behind me, and much of the trails I'll be jogging later today will be on the public paths along the Charles River. But that's 20 miles later. Though it's already been summer for me for a while, I think it really just got started here in late June. But you can tell that for the little bit of summer they do have, they make the most of it, utilizing part of the river here for swimming. But there's many other places to get wet on purpose in a playful, recreational way, utilizing some of the different park facilities that around the city they've blocked off for some swimming and recreation. And one of our seagulls, one of our little go-to spots with Walker has been down this area because of some of the green space, and there is a playground right over here across this bridge. One of our concerns when we booked our place on Rue St. Pierre in the old city is that we'd be surrounded by a lot of history but no green spaces and open public spaces to play. But that has actually been a surprise and a benefit, that how much little plazas and park spaces they've set aside for us with a 5-year-old to enjoy the city. So we've really enjoyed our location in the old city, not just for the beautiful history you just saw earlier, but there is sufficient park space to get out and enjoy the city in that way. I have a feeling that this last stretch of Charles one might be the least scenic because it goes past the smokestacks and factories and trains and tracks and construction and some graffiti. So maybe not the most beautiful side of the city, but it had that benefit of it started raining while the trail was actually going under a long stretch of overpass highway. And so I kind of got to avoid my first initial spat of rain. But now on up into the neighborhoods and to the north and east. Bye. I'm just a couple miles in and already into one of the first of many parks I'm gonna be jogging through. Don't remember the name of this one, but it's close to the botanical gardens, which hopefully I can get through and it's open. I made it into the Arboretum, and they have a labyrinth in here of cedar, and it's going to be part of my run. See where it takes me. I don't know, it's too tall for me to see above it, but let's get through it. I'm about 9 miles in, most of which has been on this bike path that flanks the St. Lawrence River. Although I wouldn't say it's particularly scenic because I've been heading on this part downstream, and it's been flanked by this pretty busy, basically interstate to the right, which blocks the view of the river and provides noise, but you can't see it this way. And that bridge, which you can see back there, goes to the Ile d'Orléans, or the island, which has some great farms, strawberry farms and wineries. We did a day trip there, so it's a nice thing. But I'm about to leave this bike path and take it over here because to enjoy this view, which you can see ahead. And this is Montmorency Falls on the edge of Quebec City. They like to boast it's actually a good bit higher than Niagara Falls, but not near as big. And this route I'm running, it's mostly level, but the steepest part's going to be this right here, and taking those steps to get up out of here. And I'm only partway up the steps. Gotta keep going. Here is where I started a little over 2 hours ago, running upriver, and then came into Montmorency Falls and up the steps. And this is about as far northeast as I'm going to go. I'm going to loop into the neighborhoods now and run back more on city paths. And here's where the falls start. I am 12 miles in, and nothing special here, except it is special in that this is one of many examples of clean neighborhoods in the city that have paths that lead directly to trails into the park system. And in fact, this one here goes to a trail along that river, the same one that had the falls we crossed, and goes to a campground. So well done, Quebec City. River down there on a little spur trail. Does rain a good bit here, so everything's got a nice green luster to it. All right, I'm back on an urban bike path and got a little bit of rain, which actually felt pretty good. And according to my All Trails map, this little knoll that I'm on is the high point of my entire route today at 483 feet elevation. There'll be a little more ups and downs, but on average, it's more downhill from here. I made a little IGA grocery store stop a while back, got back on the bike path, and then have found this lovely trail flanking a stream with a nice gravel path for running behind the neighborhoods here. It's hard to believe I'm still in the middle of a city. Hey, I am in the neighborhood of Limoilou, which is a lot of restaurants and street life here. Me being from Asheville, I would say it's probably the West Asheville of Quebec, with a lot of neighborhoods flanking, with families flanking these sort of this commercial district of unique shops and restaurants, or maybe for a large audience, it's New York's Brooklyn. But yeah, I am now about 5 hours in, and I've covered close to 22 miles, so feeling pretty good. So let's keep going. And the most beautiful thing I've seen so far on this run is Walker. Hey, buddy. And mommy. Yay. What a lovely sight.
Good timing.
Yeah. I am in one of the nice little parks here in Quebec, but the best park is who's here to meet me.
Go, Daddy, go.
Thank you, buddy. Mommy and Walker came here and they brought lots of snacks to replenish. I'm not quite halfway through, so got a lot of miles to go, but feeling good and doing well. So,
Do you have anything else to say?
what do you have to say?
I'm gonna do this.
You're gonna say, "Go, Daddy, go."
Go, Daddy, go.
Right. All right. Well, I've transitioned on my run. Said goodbye to Kim and Walker, and now I'm running a trail that goes along the river, and you see this bike path, but a lot of it is flanked by this gravel path meant for people on foot, so the bikes and electric carts and scooters can use the pavement. And you can't really see the river in there too well, but it's really not that pretty. It's kind of muddy, but it's very nice that they've developed this extensive trail network along here. So I'll be on this for a spell. Some nice boardwalk trail as we get a little further upstream. Well, I'm crossing the same river I've been running up. I'm now several miles further upstream, and the river still looking kind of brown, but it is pretty with a lot of trees, so might be tempted to tube it. I'm not sure. Still a little murky looking, but it is staying scenic as I get further upstream. But I also wanted to note that this marks the marathon distance. So it feels good to say that. I've done a marathon, but since my start time, I don't know if I'd make any cutoff on any competitive marathon. But I've got a lot of daylight left, and I'm feeling pretty good. And the important thing is that I just take my time and enjoy the miles, because got a little over 20 miles to go still. And speaking of marathons, that is kind of an important number. You know, it's like a famous distance people do, but for a personal connection, I started doing my age in miles at age 40, and then at 50, and then I became over the hill, so now I'm doing 100 minus my age. But I did the math that Walker, who is now 5, in 21 years, he will be 26 years old. And we also have started him on a tradition. Hopefully he'll be interested in keeping it up, but he walks his age in miles. He did 5 miles here in Quebec City when we first got here about 3 weeks ago. But my hope is that when he's 26, he'll do a marathon, but I'm sure he'll be able to, but my hope is I'll be able to do one then too, because I will be age 74, and 100 minus 74 is 26. So I will be due to do 26 miles at the same time he is due. So it's a dream of mine that in 21 years we can both do a marathon together. I'm not sure if he'll be interested in that. I don't think I would have been at 26 years old, but more importantly, I hope I'm even able to do it. That's one of the reasons I do these annual traditions of testing my body and covering a lot of miles on foot. This park that I'm in, St. Charles River Park, is kind of the last one I'm going to go through before I begin my loop back towards the St. Lawrence River, but just wanted to highlight it because it's got some pretty wildflowers going in here among the trees, and I have really enjoyed Quebec's just green spaces that they have for the public here. And while I was filming this sunny street, I then realized I was going down the wrong street. But I did make a stop over at this mom and pop stand across the street and got a energy drink and a Snickers bar to refuel. So here's the proper street, and there's my snack shack right there. I suppose every big city is going to have an area like this, but it's the outskirt big industrial park with a car dealership and various business and factories. And sometimes the best place or easiest place to put a bike path or greenway is under the big power lines. So but at least I'm back off the road for a little bit. Well, I guess it's still a bike lane. And there's the city in the distance. And there goes the train to Montreal. This power line vista does give a chance to point out that you can see there are mountains actually surrounding Quebec City on the outskirts, many of them with ski slopes to enjoy winter sports. But I don't know if I'd call it a mountain town, but it's got them not too far away. We went on a few drives to check out like Jacques Cartier National Park, which is that way, and some other sites. So it is pretty countryside surrounding here, and very green. Well, my hair is wet, not from rain, but from dipping my head in a water fountain just back there. With a sunny day that I wasn't expecting based on the forecast. It's kind of nice. I'm not getting rained on, but the rain would be welcome, because now I got to worry about getting dehydrated from sweating too much, because it's pretty warm. But I'm enjoying it. So I have returned to the St. Lawrence River here at Cape Rouge Road Red, and where the little river comes in to the big river. But this marks 34.5 miles, a little less than 13 to go back upstream, probably 10 miles up. Probably 10 miles upstream from where I started. Another 8 miles beyond that is Montmorency Falls. So I've done a big loop, and this is as far as I'm going to the west. Now heading downstream towards home. It is possible to take this trail and join some bike paths and stay along the river all the way to the old city. But when I get to that bridge over there, I'm going to cut up into the neighborhoods and do some neighborhood trails, because the wind is pretty persistent here, and even though the river's pretty, when you cross that bridge, you're going to be flanked by a busy highway the whole time. So I'm going to be going inland when I cross over these beaches up ahead. It may not be much of a beach, but for a river, it's not too bad. It's sandy. Sort of a shale and black sand, but a nice little park, utilizing a nice spot on the river. Onward. I got to give a shout out to Quebec City, because I'd estimate 80 to 90% of my route I mapped out has been on designated paths, greenways, and many of them not even along busy roads. So it's been a great route, but I happen to be in a section here where there's no sidewalk, and I'm walking through a neighborhood, but it's great because I get to see a different neighborhood look, and I like this one. Kind of maybe reminds me of our neighborhood, Montford, back home, where it's nice manicured houses, but nothing leaves gaudy or too ornate. Just kind of in a variety of ages of homes and families who live here. So I enjoy seeing that too. But I'll find some parks to get back into some of the nature trails and mix in with some neighborhoods and find a rest stop somewhere along the way. While this trail did show up on my All Trails map to route out, it's sometimes hard to tell if it's actually an intended trail managed by the city or just one that the public has created. But it's nice going through the neighborhoods here and winding into parks and then into the woods and on dirt paths. I have no idea what this house is, but definitely a kind of historic manor house with some property here. But I think it's now integrated into this park network, and so we can just jog right through and enjoy their gardens and so forth. It has started raining, hence the little bit of a foggy screen. Getting closer to the city, and I've noticed that this style of church is pretty distinctive here with the silvery, I'm not sure what metal it is for the steeple, but we've seen a lot of them here. This one's got a nice view of the St. Lawrence. But again, I'm heading through the neighborhood here. Well, with some refueling at IGA, I'm ready for the home stretch, and which happens to be through this part, which means I get to leave the road, and I believe the rest of my route is through park space until I get to the old city and city walls. So looking forward to this last stretch. And here's my view of the park. Some nice gardens here. Lovely sound of crows. I just ran down these stairs behind me, which means I'm down by the river level again, and there's the trail over there that goes along the river, but also past this industrial complex. So that means I'm going to run this one, which goes back uphill. So got a little bit of climbing to do. I've been boasting a lot about Quebec's parks, but this one here is the crown jewel of the city's parks. It is the Plains of Abraham, which overlook the St. Lawrence River, but besides being a park, it is also a very historic battlefield, hence the cannons over here. This is where the British beat the French to pretty much settle who was going to colonize North America. Though the British won, the French culture has persisted, and hence French-speaking Quebec, but this is where it was won in 1759. This is more of the expansive Plains of Abraham. So great park, and one of the best neighborhoods is the houses that are in here. Ignore the office building and the hotel there, but there's some great houses and restaurant areas over there. So we've enjoyed walking up this way several times. This is where Quebec settled celebrated its Quebec Day just this last weekend, but it's also set up for a huge summer festival. It's going to happen in a few weeks here. So they really like their festivals here and to make the most of summer. Here in the Plains, a nice flower garden, and the centerpiece of which is a statue of Joan of Arc, which is fitting considering it overlooks the site of the French loss to the English, but even in defeat, showing their French pride. Well, you can tell I'm getting closer to the old town because a lot of cafes here on the Grand Alley with good restaurants and some nightlife. One big distinction of Quebec is that it is a walled city, and the old town's contained within those walls, with several of these gateway arches to get into the walled city. It's being the only walled city north of Mexico, but part of what gives it that European vibe that everybody loves. Here we go into the old city. This fortification on the far end of Plains of Abraham is called the Citadel. It's a fort. It was actually built when the United States seemed to be threatening maybe to try to add Canada to its independent colonies. But it never had to be used for that. But it's a beautiful structure overlooking the river, can defend the city within its walls, and a good view. The best view from the Citadel would have to be this one. Why I saved it for the end of my run. There is Old Town Quebec City and the very famous Chateau Frontenac that overlooks the Old Town. And great place if you come to visit Quebec. You got to climb up these steps and also get a good view of the river. If you're wondering where our place is and where I started, It's right down in there in the middle of this picture. So I am close to the end. And here is the famous promenade, built and developed shortly after the hotel was built in the late 1800s. Very popular place, as you can see, and very scenic. Come up here many times to enjoy the views. And here's some of the architectural and culinary scenery of the old town, right here below the chateau. Walker loves this place. We've come here several times and probably would have come more if we had more sunny days or it was hot enough where you'd want to get wet. But this is the main one in the center, but there are a lot of these all over just the parks around town, which is quite a statement for a city that doesn't really have a lot of summer. They do want to make the most of it. And now we're going steeply downhill to another of the historic gates of the wall to get to the lower part of Old Town, the old port, and close to home. I ran down this street earlier this morning when it was completely empty, but now it's middle of the day and a lot of tourists are out, and that means we are close, very close to tying up this loop I've been running. In fact, this site should look pretty familiar right down here, or at least that, the mural, the history of Quebec. Here's another nice spot close to our house with nice restaurants, including down that way a little bit, the Buffet Antiquaire, which is the antique buffet, because there's a lot of antique shops there. We've eaten there several times, but just a few blocks this way is the house, but I actually don't plan to finish there. I was planning to finish at this building right here because that second floor above this art gallery is our place. That's where we've been staying for a month, but I'm not finishing there because Kim and Walker, that's our bedroom right there, and Walker's bedroom with the Quebec flag in the window. They are not up there. I think they're waiting for me in the plaza just up ahead. And here we are, just around this bend and up this slope, and it's the big finish. And where is Kim and Walker? There they are! Hey! Yay! Where? Yeah. Oh, thank you. Oh, and thank you. And popsicles. What's the sign say? Show it to me real quick. 47. Good job, Daddy. 47 miles. Oh, that's great. Thanks, buddy. I'm done. Yay. Right at 12 hours.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right. And the reward for the Ironman is the treat you can get at REI. Popsicles. Yum. Thank you. And let's take a look at this plaza. I ran through here and it was totally empty before, but now full of life because it's middle of the day, 4:45. Yay.